Hi, I'm Nish from YB Aligned, and for this week's Movement Monday, we are looking at the shoulders. Our shoulder is a joint, so that means it connects two or more bones. And in this case, we have our upper arm bone, which is our humerus, and then our shoulder blade, which is our scapula. And you can see they're joining here, and this forms a ball and socket joint. So as you can see here in this video by Anatomy Standard, the ball and socket joint means that upper arm bone is allowed to roll around, move up and down, left and right in all different directions. And then we have the movements of our shoulder blades. We have up and down, which is elevation and depression. We have away from the spine towards the spine, which is either protraction, retraction, or abduction, adduction. And we have this tilting movement, which is upwards and downwards rotation. Another piece of important information to bear in mind is that our shoulder blade also attaches onto our collarbone here, or our clavicle, and that attaches onto our sternum, which is the front of our rib cage. So our shoulders are directly attached to our rib cage. So why is this rib cage and shoulder connection important? Well, from all of my work and all my videos, you've probably got a good understanding that everything is connected. If one part doesn't move well, it can either make the other part not move well because these parts are connected, or it could make the other part work too hard. So if we've got a rib cage and spine that don't move, it could be that our shoulder blades and our shoulder joints are working too much and therefore could be painful. Or on the flip of that, it could be that if our rib cage doesn't move well and our shoulders are connected, they're limiting their movement as well. So that whole area isn't moving. And whether it's too much movement or not enough movement, either of these can cause multiple problems like pain, stiffness, tightness, discomfort in those areas, and down and above in neighboring areas too. Let's take a look at the movements of the shoulder joints and shoulder blades on a real body and see how we can also encourage those movements back into our body. In a side-on view, when I am lifting my arm up and over my head and then letting it come back down and behind me, that is literally the forward and back motion in that ball and socket joint. And then on the shoulder blade itself, making sure you can see me, as I lift my arm up, what's happening is my shoulder blade is sliding down the rib cage. So that's that depression movement. And then as I bring my arm back down, the shoulder blade is going to glide back upwards, and that's elevation. The next movement we're going to look at is when the shoulder blades are going in and out. Now I can actually connect that movement two different ways. I can either be rotating my arms, so my palms are going to face all the way ahead of me, and then the thumbs are going to keep on rotating away from my body. And that, as you can see, is drawing my shoulders back. So that is also drawing my shoulder blades closer towards each other. And then if I rotate my palms all the way back to my thighs and then keep on going, so my thumbs are rotating towards me, that is spreading my shoulder blades away from each other. In that arm rotation, in addition to the sliding in and out of the shoulder blades, we also had a rotational movement in that ball and socket joint. So quite literally, the arm bones are rotating outwards and inwards. Another way in which we can get this gliding inwards and outwards of the shoulder blades is actually by connecting to our rib cage and our spine. We know that the rib cage is indirectly connected to the shoulder blades. And so if I'm able to if I use a center point of my sternum here, if I tip this sort of upwards and backwards, that's going to lift my rib cage up, and I'll get a curve in the top of my spine, which is my thoracic spine. You can see that here. And my shoulder blades are going to glide in towards each other. And then if I relax that rib cage back down, I send that sternum down to the floor, I get more of a rounding of the back. So that is a flexion of this spine here, and that is sending my rib cage or my shoulder blades away from each other. So I'm getting this in and away. So we can either use that individually, using the rotations of the arms and the rib cage individually, or we can combine the two together. So what I can do is lift my rib cage upwards and then rotate my palms to face the front. So that's really giving a lot of opportunity for those shoulder blades to glide together. And then I can relax down the rib cage, which will pull the shoulder blades forward, and then also turn my palms away from the body and then just soften that rib cage, and that's giving them a maximum room to spread out away from each other. And then the third movement we have is our upwards and downwards rotation. So imagine those are your shoulder blades. They have the ability to do this. Okay, so how would we get that into the body? Quite simply, if I take my arm up, out to the side and over my head, so it's just a nice straight arm, as I do that, that shoulder blade will be doing this. I'll show you that on the body. So what I'm doing here is I am lifting my arm out to the side, and I'm getting that rotation of the shoulder blade up and away from the spine, and then it comes back in towards the spine. And at the same time, in this ball and socket joint, we're getting a swishing movement, or an outwards and inwards movement of that shoulder joint. And just to show you that wonderful shoulder socket joint in motion, remember it can go forward and back, it can go up and down, and it can go in and out. To show you what that all together, that would be a big arm rotation. So that shoulder joint, literally this humerus bone is just rolling around in that socket, moving in all those different planes of motion. Obviously that happens when we go backwards, and again when we go forwards. One last point to note on the it's all connected front. We have our shoulder blades, we have our shoulder joints, and obviously they do connect down into our lower arms and our hands. I have seen some clients recently where the shoulder blades are working really well, but the shoulder blades aren't really moving at all within their sockets. Or perhaps the lower arm is moving really well, which moves the shoulder joint slightly, and then the shoulder blades aren't doing anything. So just because one is moving well, it doesn't mean the other will be too. So those are our shoulders. You now know the difference between the shoulder blades and the shoulder joints. You know how the blades and joints connect through, round onto our collarbones and down onto our rib cage, and therefore our spine as well. You've seen the movements of the shoulder joints and the blades in all their different directions, and you've got a way to increase those movements in the body. I would encourage you to do every movement really slowly and mindfully. See if you can physically feel the shoulder blade and the shoulder joint moving, or if one is moving and not the other. So thank you for joining me for Movement Monday. This is the shoulders, and don't forget to join me next week and like and subscribe and follow to catch up on next week's Movement Monday.